Good morning, everyone. How you guys doing? It's me, your boy Ryan Flowers, aka Clutch Sports Talk, in the house, and you know what that means. It's NFL Sunday morning with me. It's week 7. It's blowing by pretty quick, man. I was out last week, had some business I had to take care of, but I'm back in the saddle with another great episode for you guys, getting you guys ready up until kickoff for all of today's action around the NFL. Again, this show is presented to you by The Grid, the leaders in sports media, entertainment, and content. You know, we bring in that fire every week as we come on. As you can see, I'm representing for The Grid this morning. But hey, we got a great show today. I'm going to be talking about the coaching hot seat. Yeah, there's a couple coaches, man, that are kind of like... it's getting hot in the kitchen, man. And are they going to get out, or the teams are going to stay with them, or whatever? We'll talk about that. Also got to go over my Week 7 power rankings and my Week 7 predictions, and followed up with my clutch picks of the week. This is a big week for me. I'm sitting at 500. The last 2 weeks have not been kind to me, so I'm trying to do what I can to stay above 500 today. So without further ado, man, sit back and relax. Enjoy the show. This is Clutch Sports Talk, NFL Sunday morning with me, Ryan Flowers. Let's go. Welcome in, everybody. Hope you guys are doing all right and you guys are nice and warm and bundled up wherever you're watching this show from, man. Hope you got your cup of coffee, tea, whatever you're doing, your waffles, your pancakes. Hope you guys are pulled up watching me this morning, man. I got another fire episode for you guys today. But listen, again, this show is presented by The Grid, the leaders in sports, entertainment, and media content, man. We keeping it popping right here, man. We trying. We got all these great content creators. We're doing our thing. We're growing, and make sure you get on and catch the wave while you can. All right. But hey, got a great show for you guys today, man. Again, we're going to be talking about some coaches that are on the hot seat. You guys let me know what you think. Also, Week 7 power rankings, Week 7 predictions, and clutch sports picks of the week. But just real quick before we kind of get everything, just some news and notes from around the league real fast. Russell Wilson not getting the start today, excuse me, at home, I believe, against the Jets. So we'll see how that talk. We'll talk about that later on when I go through my predictions. Christian McCaffrey on the move, traded Thursday to the San Francisco 49ers. I got some thoughts about that because I've seen a lot of people on social media giving the Niners some flack. I'll kind of weigh in on that a little bit. Carson Wentz going to be out at least 4 weeks due to, I think, a broken finger on his throwing hand, I think. So we'll see what happens with the Commanders and the Bears. The Bears are still alleging or accusing the New England Patriots of cheating prior to their Monday night matchup, which I thought Thursday Night Football was getting bad. Monday Night Football, I wish they could start flexing schedules now because that game is not going to be watchable. So Sunday night's been pretty good for the most part, I would say. Pretty competitive games. But the Thursday night and sometimes the Monday night games to me have just not lived up to the expectations for most of us. But anyway, those are some quick little news and notes from around the league, probably that you know of. But we'll dive a little bit more deeper into some of these situations as we go through the Week 7 prediction. So real quick, man, I want to talk first about some coaches. Now, there are some teams that have some head coaches that are on the hot seat, whether they know it or not. But I'm going to put some of them on the hot seat, and we'll kind of reflect on why they're on the hot seat or what led them to this situation. So the first guy I want to talk about, he's probably flying low key under the radar, I would say. And that's going to be Riverboat Ron. Now, this is what, 4th or 5th season, I think, in Washington. Now, they never really established a quarterback, right? Their defensive line is just it's like a garage full of sports, high performance sports cars. You got tons of draft picks from the first round. Now, some of them not made by him from the previous regime, but they just have not been able to get it going on the offensive side of the ball, which I'm not surprised because he's a defensive-minded coach. Now, his time in Carolina was, well, I would say pretty successful, but it ran its course, right? And now we took the job in Washington. They never ever established or drafted a quarterback. They went out and get Carson Wentz this offseason. And he kind of calls out Carson Wentz last week. And to be fair, I'm not a Carson Wentz fan, but I don't think it's all his problem. It's not all his fault as well, what I'm saying. But listen, this guy's got 4 flames because he is on the hot seat. I think Dan Snyder, who's also been in the news lately, talking about, he's got some dirt on people in the NFL. This organization is messed up from the top down. Okay. Now, they do have some nice offensive little pieces that I would say Terry McLaurin is a pretty solid player. Just unfortunate for him, he's on the wrong team. Again, I talked about the defensive line. They got a bunch of Ferraris and Lamborghinis rushing the quarterback, but they just don't have enough on the back end to be a successful team, especially in what's now become the best division in all of football, the NFC East, which was formerly known as the NFC Least. Now, Ron Rivera, he fits in that equation because I think he was brought in to kind of stabilize the organization. He's an older coach. He's very, he's got some cachet a little bit. They made a Super Bowl. He did coach a former MVP, but really his time in Carolina kind of ended a little, not abruptly, but it was time for a change, and they ended up making the change. They moved on to Matt Rule. Matt Rule's not in the league anymore, and I don't think Ron Rivera will be in the league much longer, especially after the season. And I don't think a lot of it is because it's his fault, per se. I don't think a lot of it is his fault. But you have some coaches where the time has just passed them by. This is a new modern day football. Things are different. Players are different. And you just don't, listen, you just don't know what you're getting a lot of days. And so I think it's time for Ron Rivera. He's definitely, the hot seat is on high for him, and he'll be out of here probably by the end of this season. All right. The next gentleman, I think a lot of us would agree on. And the only reason why I only have 3 flames for him and I don't have 4 is because they're winning right now. They're on a 2-game winning streak, I believe, which I think will come to an end today. I'll talk about that later on. But Brandon Staley, he's definitely the epitome of having something really nice and running it into the ground. Now, on paper, the Chargers were probably the best team going into the season. They had some key pieces on the defensive side, Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, who got benched last week, oddly enough. Justin Herbert coming off a really solid year. They barely just missed the playoffs by some indecisioning, some game time decision by Brandon Staley, who we know now for a fact he's not very good at game management. Okay. But with all that said, this is a very hot job. I think if he gets the boot, right, if he's fired, this is going to be the best job, I think, in the National Football League. It's LA. You're in a division, other than the Chiefs, right? Which they competed against because they can kind of do that a little bit. Denver's struggling. The Raiders are what the Raiders are at this point. Listen, this guy has a great job, but he just can't get it right, and he gets in his own way sometimes. And that's what's crazy about this guy is that sometimes, and I get it. I understand when you're in the moment, things are happening. I coach football myself, and sometimes you may overlook certain things, but he continues to make the same mistake over and over and over, and it's just. The last couple of weeks they've been bailed out. He got bailed out by his team. But this guy, I think if he does not make the playoffs this year, he's done. And you have to be done with him because he's not making this team any better. If that's the case, you could have kept Anthony Lynn and continued not making the playoffs. But this guy is supposed to be this guru, and honestly, I just don't see it. And so he's got 3 flames for me. And I think if he doesn't get in the playoffs this year, he's done because look at all the talent he has on offense and defense, and they can't get it done. All right. Next guy, Dan Campbell. Now, was never a big fan of his hiring anyway. He's a raw kind of guy, and we know in the National Football League that doesn't work. All right, you're dealing with men, but maybe this day and age, because of the younger generation coming into the league, he could have fit somewhere. Now, I'm not saying he's a terrible coach, but I don't think he's one of the greatest X's and O coaches of all time. He'll never go down in the history of being that. I don't think he was ever considered that in the first place, right? But the honeymoon is over. We watch the Hard Knocks. We see how passionate he is about it, and that's great, and I understand that. But at the end of the day, it's a results-oriented business, and they're just not getting it done. The Lions are not getting it done, right? Their defense is atrocious. Anthony Lynn, I don't know what happened, man. The offense is doing something, right? Maybe a little bit. But Dan Campbell, he's more of a motivator kind of guy. He should be a really good strength and conditioning coach, right? Because the way he goes about, he looks like he can still play a little bit, but from running the ship overall, I don't think he's the guy. And Detroit is not living up to the expectations that they set from the Hard Knocks show. And unfortunately for a guy like him, the GM, I forgot the name of the GM, but he might be on the hot seat because to me, this was not a great pick. You right now, you need a guy that knows football over. I'm not saying he doesn't know football because he does know, but you need to know football from a coaching standpoint, and they're just not getting the best out of their players. And they do got some talent, man. You got DeAndre Swift, you got St. Brown over there. People are talking about they talk about Matthew Stafford as being this great quarterback now. I mean, listen, Matthew Stafford still is Matthew Stafford. He just was benefited from being on a better organization, right? Jared Goff is putting up pretty solid numbers, even though it is sometimes losing time, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So Dan Campbell's going to have to get out of here. I believe this is his second season or third season. I forget now. But he's got 4 flames. He's going to be on his way out, I think, at the end of this year. I would assume. Frank Reich. Now, this one's interesting. Got some close ties to this one. I was talking to a good friend last night about this situation. Shout out to DJ. This one's interesting because this team was considered to be a Super Bowl caliber team this year. Now they're 3-2-1 if I'm not mistaken, and they still got a lot of season left over. I understand, but something is not clicking now. I know Jonathan Taylor is not firing on all cylinders. He's been hurt. I believe they're like 28th or 29th in rushing. They're 5th in passing, which would explain why, because they're throwing the ball more, but they're having to rely more on an older Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan was brought in to kind of help supplement and take some of the pressure off of Jonathan Taylor a little bit, but this team was going to go through Jonathan Taylor. But because he hasn't been able to perform and they haven't lived up to the expectations and standards that they've had the last couple of years, they're putting more on Matt Ryan, and it just hasn't worked out. And number 2, they don't have a true number 1 receiver. They just don't. They don't have a guy. I mean, don't get me wrong. Probably people say, oh, that Michael Pittman Jr. But listen, he's probably a really good number 2, right? He didn't separate very well. He's still a younger guy, obviously. He's not a talent like Justin Jefferson. When Justin Jefferson took the field from day one, we just knew this guy was going to be extraordinary, and he's lived up to that, right? Not saying that Michael Pittman Jr. is garbage, but he's not that guy, right? So, the defense is kind of middle of the road again. The offensive line really isn't the same. So they've got some issues that they've got to deal, and a lot of it is going to fall back on him. Right now, I think he's got maybe one more year. I think he's done enough. Right, I only got 2 flames on him, but I think he's done enough to at least garner one more year, depending on how they finish out the season. Now, if it becomes a disaster, if they don't end up winning this division, which this division is up for grabs. Now they got a tough one on the road today against Tennessee, which we'll talk about that. But he's got to win a division at least to keep his job for one more year, and the rest of that coaching staff. So they're going to be coaching their ass off because, listen, Indianapolis is that owner, Jim Irsay, I wouldn't say he's irrational, but the guy wants to win. They've had winning teams throughout the course of the year. They've been very consistent. They've never really been just that terrible, right? They've always been somewhat competitive from a standpoint, all right, especially after Peyton Manning. They luck out and literally get Andrew Luck, right? So they've had good quarterback transition, and that's been the difference. Right. And when Andrew Luck retired a couple years ago, they were kind of left like, oh man, like, what do we do? Right. And so I think they just need to find that again, but they need to get Jonathan Taylor up and running again in order for them to be successful throughout the rest of the year. If not, it's going to be a hard season, the rest of the season for Frank Reich and his staff, because there's a lot of expectations, and right now they're just not living up to it. And like I said, I think we know what they are for the most part. I think at a minimum, if he wins the division, I think he might be able to keep his job for one more season, but for sure, the heat is going to get turned up in that coach's seat next year for sure if he does retain his job by winning the division, because they need this team. I'm telling you, a lot of people picked them to win the Super Bowl, or at least be in the Super Bowl or be in the conversation, and they just haven't had it. So, all right, now this guy, I mean, I don't think we need to talk much about this guy. Nathaniel Hackett, totally overwhelmed. Should have never been a head coach in the National Football League. Now we know, right? But he's got some cachet. Why? Because he helped coach Aaron Rodgers. Now, much of it, do we know? Did he have a big part in planning, in execution, or not execution, or strategy? I don't know, man. It doesn't seem like this guy knows anything at all. Now he comes from a coaching pedigree. His daddy was an NFL coach, coached college for a while. But this guy, literally, week 2, you're hiring a consultant on game management? Week 2? Come on, right? Now, there's a lot of things too going wrong with him. I mean, listen, the whole Russell Wilson thing, that turned out to be a bust. Now, I'm not saying Russell Wilson is done, but they were expecting a different Russell Wilson than what they actually got. Now, I don't know what the change is. Is it because of the scheme? Is Russell Wilson a system quarterback? Because Geno Smith is putting up pretty solid numbers with pretty much the same talent that Russell Wilson had. Now he goes to Denver, has a better defense, weapons, pretty solid weapons, right? They don't really have a running game. They lose their running back from last year. He got hurt this year, but this guy has no idea. This thing is falling apart around them. A couple weeks ago when they lost to, I believe it was the Colts, was it Thursday Night Football? He had made a statement. They had decided to go for it, and then he had said, "Yeah, we got the go ahead to go for it." Well, who did you get the go ahead from? The consultant? You're the head coach. So statements like that to me just shows that he is not the guy for this job. And I probably should not get another head coaching job once he's fired this year, because there's no doubt in my mind he's not getting fired. He's going to get fired. And I think he knows that. He's a lame duck coach right now. And now you don't have Russell Wilson, which could be a good thing. Maybe they rally around him today against the Jets. I'll talk about that later on. But this guy, four flames, because he's a hot mess, and he's probably going to be out of Denver here shortly. All right, Cliff Kingsbury. Now, this one's very interesting because some people would say, well, he might deserve a 1 or 2 flame, but I think it's 3. I think it's harder than what people think. We saw the altercation that he had with his quarterback, Kyler Murray, the other day on the Thursday night game. And I get it. Football is a very passionate sport. People yell at each other. It's intense. I get that. But Cliff Kingsbury, his teams, and obviously it's not happening this year. They haven't started very fast, but they start fast and they finish slow, right? Offensively, they start to get stagnant. They get stale. You got a quarterback that's not really that interested really in this organization anymore. I think organization is not really interested in him, but they paid him anyway because they had no choice. All right. So there's a lot of turmoil, I think, going around this organization. The way they treated Kyler Murray, the way Kyler Murray treats them, and how he goes about certain things. Just the fact that he would talk to his head coach and say, "Chill the F out." I mean, I get it. I know I just said that this game's passionate, but geez, little 5'5" guy talking to you like that. Come on, man. Like, what's going on here? So Cliff Kingsbury, I think he looks the part. He looks good, right? As far as like, he just very chiseled guy, and I'm getting too TMI here, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? But I think there's some what do you call it? What's the word? It's kind of hollow. It's very superficial around the Arizona Cardinals. Because if you look at that team really right now, like, D-Hop came back, right? And then they got the win against the Saints, but the Saints, that's a whole nother problem, which unfortunately, I'll talk about them later. We can talk about them. But listen, the Cardinals overall, to me, Barry Grant Jr. saying, Mr. Choke Artist. Who's the choke artist, Barry? Is it, you talking about Brandon Staley or Cliff Kingsbury? But yeah, so the Cardinals definitely got some problems, and he's got 3 flames because we've seen the Arizona Cardinals make moves quickly. They had Steve Wilkes in 1 year, and they booted him, right, to go and get Cliff Kingsbury, right, and they got rid of Josh Rosen. So they're very prone. They've shown that they are quick to move off, which I'm totally for. I think if you want to make your situation better, you got to move quick. There's no reason to hang on to some of these guys if you don't feel like you're going to win with them. And I think he's right there. And if he's not done this year, he's done next year, and he'll be back in college somewhere. Maybe he goes to Oklahoma because they're going to need a coach too. But this is not a college show. It's a NFL football show. But just keep that in mind. All right. Last guy, Josh McDaniels. Raider fans, you want to talk about overreactors? Raider fans are, and I get it. Cowboy fans are too. But our coach, I think, he's gonna stay, right? I didn't put him on the list because they're 4-1. They're 4-2 with the backup quarterback playing majority of the game so far. But this guy, Josh, I don't think a lot of it is his fault. The defense, well, it is and it isn't. This defense is not good. They're just not. Offensively, they should have beat the Arizona, right? That was a game they should have won and maintained that victory. Probably should have beat the Chiefs, right? That would have been a really solid win, right? Now, they got the lowly Texans coming in, but, listen, that game might be closer than what people think. I think it's -7. I wish my boy Fam Podcast was on because I know he knows all the lines and stuff like that. But I think that's -7 at home against the Texans, right? Who don't really have nothing to lose because they know they suck. Okay. Well, the Raiders, they have this big expectation. They got a brand new stadium. They got these boisterous fans, and some of their fans think they're still going to the Super Bowl at 1-4. The reality is that they're not. They're an average team, especially on the back end. They haven't drafted well in the past, and that's not Josh McDaniels' fault. That's the previous regime, Mike Mayock and John Gruden, right? But I don't think he's got one flame because I think everyone just needs to settle down. And the thing about it is, too, it's not the problem with the quarterback. It's your defense as well. Now, I get it. There's been some times where the offense hasn't gotten going, but they're running the ball a little bit better. Josh Jacobs is running the ball pretty effectively. Offensively, I think they're good, but that's never been the problem. Darren Waller's out. They added Devontae Adams, who's doing his thing. Hunter Renfrow coming back from the concussion a couple weeks ago. I think he's earned himself a little bit more time. And if Mark Davis can give him some time, I think the Raiders can do something a little bit, but they have to fix the problems on the defense. You have to. Max Crosby is playing his ass off, right? Chandler Jones, that was a big signing. I think a lot of people thought when they signed Chandler Jones that he was going to help, with that defensive line. Okay, but he hasn't. He hasn't really done that much, and so they don't really get the pass rush that we thought they were going to have, and their secondary is still atrocious. And my boy Barry says on the YouTube chat, he says, Josh McDaniels is not a great leader of men, though, Ryan. He's a coordinator, nothing more, nothing less. Yeah, I mean, I won't disagree with that statement. I'm going to give him one more chance of another full season, let him get some more picks under his belt and see what they can do with that regime. But I agree. I mean, I think from a coordinating standpoint, he's really good. He's really good because he's kept it. I mean, I don't even know where the Raiders rank in offensive efficiency. Let's see. Let's see where the Raiders rank at right now before we move on here. We know that they're dead last in the AFC West. That I do know. Let's see where they're at offensively. I mean, look, total yards, they're 9th. They're middle of the road. They're middle of the road. I mean, they're scoring a lot, but that could just be, they're because their defense isn't good. So they're in these back and forth games, right? But they're middle of the road for the most part offensively, right? They're 9th in total yards, 12th in rushing, 15th in passing, 6th for points. Third down efficiency, they're ranked 16th. And then you look at the defense. Total yards are 20th. Passing yards, they're 23rd. Now, their rush defense is pretty solid. They're tied for 6th. They're 28th. They're almost, there's 32 teams in the NFL. They're 28th in points. So they give up a lot of points. And they're 14th in third down conversions. So that they can be had. They can be gotten. All right. So this is a middle-of-the-road team. I think a lot of people expected more out of them because of the Devontae Adams pick. Trade, the Chandler Jones. The fact of the matter, it could boil down to leadership too, like my boy Barry said. But I think he's one flame. I think next year it's going to turn up just a little bit, especially if they don't live up to these expectations that Raider fans have set. And speaking from a fan base that expects a lot, as a Cowboys fan, this is one of the more proud franchises in the National Football League from a global brand, right? And their fans expect a certain thing. And just like us Cowboys fans, I don't think we're going to always go to the Super Bowl, but there's this mindset that's what people expect from the Raiders every year. And when you walk into the situation as a head coach, especially him, he's got to know that, because his fan base is crazy. For as much as I don't like the Raiders, I still respect their fan base because they're very passionate about their team, regardless if they win, lose. And the same thing with the Cowboys fans. Like Cowboys, bro, listen, people. The last time the Cowboys won a Super Bowl, I think I was in the 6th grade. The 6th grade. I'm 38 years old now with a family. 6th grade was the last time they won a Super Bowl. And I'm still riding with them. So, and you got Raider fans just like that as well. So those are the coaches on the hot seat. Let me know if you guys think there was anybody else out there that I missed. But I think for the most part, those are the main guys, I would say. And we'll just go off of that. Excuse me. So I don't know. We'll see. But again, this year, there's a lot. I think there's a lot more coaches. I feel like there's going to be some open jobs, I would say. And you never know. There might be another surprise somewhere. If I had to pick maybe, let me see. Who would be somebody that might get the axe? I don't know. I don't think there's anybody else really that's underperformed. Maybe Lovie Smith from the Texans, but really, I think he was just kind of hired to I don't know. Honestly, I don't know why they hired him, to be honest with you. I really don't know. But he might be a guy, maybe. Maybe they just needed to get a guy in there to kind of just have someone to be a face. And then they might be moving towards a different direction next season. But that might be the only next guy that I think might be on a hot seat. But I didn't really put him on there because really, did we expect much from the Texans anyway this year? Not really. I doubt that. So, all right. Let's get on to the power rankings of week 7. So I don't have any special music. I probably need to develop that for the next show. But anywho, listen, you guys see them. Week 7 power rankings. I got the Eagles at number 1. They're the only undefeated team left in the league. They're 6-0 now. They pulled off a really good win against the Dallas Cowboys last week. But I think the Cowboys can get at them. I think they are susceptible, right? We can, but and I'm not being a bitter Cowboy fan. They won the game. They won the game flat out. Congratulations. I'm not going to say much other than the fact that I think that we with a backup quarterback and not moving the ball efficiently in the first half, I think if the Cowboys had figured out that in the first half, what they did in the second half, this game would have been a little bit different. But it is what it is. Congratulations to the Eagles. You're 6-0. You've won the Super Bowl. Not, right? But for now, you're number 1 in the power rankings only because you're undefeated. Buffalo Bills have surged back up after beating the Kansas City Chiefs on the road. That has to supplant the Chiefs, right? The Bills have to supplant the Chiefs. Straight up, head to head, they beat them. It is what it is. Now, that's not the last time I think those two teams are going to play. We're probably going to see that game again, probably late January, early November in Orchard Park in Buffalo for an AFC Championship game. And that's going to be a doozy because each of these last couple games that these teams have played have been very intriguing. Very intriguing. All right. I got the Chiefs at 3rd right now. I mean, you lose. But I still think they got enough between coaching and their quarterback play. I think they'll be all right. And they'll stay right there. Now, Minnesota Vikings, I was talking to my friend again last night about this. I'm putting them up there because I believe they're 5-1 or 4-1. I forgot what their record is, but they've only lost 1 game. Now, I don't know really if this is really true about the Vikings. Like, are they this team that is good? Now, defensively, they've regressed. They're not the same defensive team. Offensively, they're still pretty solid for the most part. They don't run the ball effectively like they've had before. Dalvin Cook's been injured. I think he's back now. But do I really believe in this team? And I still don't. Unfortunately. And I know that might sound disrespectful because, their record is what their record is. But to me, it's something about the Vikings that I think they're a little fraudulent. Time will only tell because they're going to make the playoffs and they'll probably end up winning this division because the Packers are just letting it go. But do we really believe in Kirk Cousins at the end of the day? And when you get into the playoffs, you're going to be playing other elite quarterbacks. And does he stack up? Now, one thing going for the Vikings is that really the NFC really isn't that good. I mean, it's not good. It's just it's not a lot of separation. I mean, the Eagles are the top team in the NFC, obviously, right? Then you can probably say the Vikings, and then after that, you got it's just kind of everybody else. The Bucs aren't playing really well right now. Obviously, we'll talk about the Cowboys and all that. There's a lot of other teams that maybe have something to say, and I don't know. And one of my cousins, he's a Vikings fan, and he probably will have something to say about it. But I got them at 4th, so I'm going to respect the fact that their record they've won, they played who they played, and they've beaten who they need to beat. So I'll leave it at that. Now the Bengals, they surged back a little bit. The Bengals are, they're getting a little bit better. Joe Burrow, even though the Cowboys beat them, I still have them above the Cowboys just a little bit. But I kind of went back and forth. But this could have easily flip-flopped. Okay, but they're starting to get their groove together. And I think at the end of the day, that offensive line is still going to be their downfall. I mean, really, they do. Everyone thought that they kind of shored up this offensive line. And reality is that they really didn't. Unfortunately, it just didn't seem like that happened. But we'll see what happens down the stretch towards the end of the season. All right, Dallas Cowboys. I think they're going to be looking to move up. Their schedule is playing out really, really nicely. Really, really nicely. You got the Lions today. Hopefully, that's got to be a win. I mean, literally, that's got to be a win. But their schedule is shaping up. I'm pulling it up right now. Listen, they got the Lions today. Chicago, at Green Bay, and at Minnesota. The Minnesota game might be difficult. I think you can get after Green Bay, right? So Green Bay isn't that good as well. So their next 4 games are all winnable games, right? Winnable games. So they have a chance to improve. Dak Prescott comes back. That defense is elite. That's a top 5 defense, man. The way they get after it, it's one of the better defenses I've seen in Dallas in quite some time. I mean, listen, I'm just reading off their rankings on defense, right? Total yards, they're 9th, which I'm okay with that. Passing yards, 4th, right? Rushing, they're still susceptible to the run game, right? But they're 19th. Points, 3rd overall. They're giving up 16.5 points a game. That's really good. 3rd down, they're really good at getting teams off of 3rd down. So that's really good. Now, offensively, again, it's pretty bad. I think that's part of the reason why you can't really propel them up, at least for me, in the top 5, just because they can't score. They can't score. I don't know if with that coming back, that's going to help out tremendously. We'll have to wait and see. But listen, total yards, they're 28th. Passing yards, they're 27th. Rushing, they're 16th. Points, they're 23rd. And third down conversions, they're 29th. And honestly, for me, to be a really good team, you got to be able to convert on 3rd down. And offensively, they just don't. And so I don't think this could be a Super Bowl contending team because offensively, they can't convert that. And is that going to change? We'll see. We'll see today, but they should get right against the Detroit Lions coming in this morning. All right, New York Giants. This is they're like the Minnesota Vikings. They're kind of an enigma as well. Their record, they're sitting 2nd in the NFC East right now, but really, everything is running through Saquon Barkley. I mean, literally everything. Now, the Giants have always played defense very well historically. I will give them that. They're winning games based off of coaching. Brian Daboll has done a fantastic job. If he's not the leader for Coach of the Year right now, I don't know who else could be. Just based on what he has and what they've been able to do, it's been remarkable. It's been remarkable. But they're kind of fraudulent too because they can't score either. And if they play another solid defensive team that has a little bit of offensive prowess, then they're going to be in trouble. They're going to be in trouble because they can't score. I mean, they're damn near at the bottom of every offensive stat, or not every offensive, but they're pretty bad. Now, defensively, they can be gotten to, right? But situationally, they're okay. They're kind of just hanging on by a thread, I would say. And you're probably thinking 5-1 hanging on a thread. I mean, yeah. I mean, they got Baltimore. They beat Baltimore, which the Baltimore game was a good win last week. I'll give them that. They're at Jacksonville. They're at Seattle. Those are 2 tough games. And we're going to see a little bit more about them. But we're going to have to wait. We're going to wait and see about them. So, but the Giants, I got them up there. Now, the Niners, I got them at 8th. They lost on the road to the Atlanta Falcons. They got a big one today against the Chiefs. They added Christian McCaffrey. Listen, let me spend some time and talk about that real quick. So a lot of people are saying, well, they gave up, a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and, to the Carolina Panthers. Listen, I get it. I'm not big on draft picks like that. I think it's got to be balanced. And number one, you got to know your team, right? The Niners traditionally have drafted very well. A lot of their guys are homegrown guys. So I'm not worried about, them giving up draft picks because right now they feel they're in a situation to win now, right? They feel like they've got what they need to win a Super Bowl. Whether people agree with that or not, within their organization, that's what they feel, right? Now, you did give up a lot for a guy that's been pretty injury prone, all right? To a team that doesn't really know who their quarterback's going to be next year. Is it going to be Trey Lance? Are they going to move off Jimmy Garoppolo finally? What's going to happen, right? Because Trey Lance is done for the year, right? So it's Jimmy G's time. Now, this team does play defense still pretty well. Now, they do have some offensive line issues, but I think they can overcome that a little bit. Now, they got a big one today. Against the Chiefs. If they can somehow win that game, that might quiet all those doubters and haters about the pick or about the trade, right? Again, you're giving up a 3rd, a 2nd, 3rd, and a 4th, but you don't know who those players are going to be. We know what Christian McCaffrey is when he's healthy. When he's healthy. And that's a big question, right? You guys can't see me, but I'm doing my air quotations. That's a big question. When he is healthy. And that's the problem. When is he healthy? He's been healthy so far this year, but is that enough, right? So I'm okay with the trade. Carolina obviously got a good stockpile of draft picks, and they're going to continue to get, because they're going. This is a fire sale. I heard DJ Moore is on the block. One of the linebackers, Burns, is on the trading block. I think some teams offered a first and a second for that kid. So we'll have to wait and see. But it's one thing to have the draft picks. It's what do you do with the draft picks, and those are unknown commodities. Whereas you trade for a Christian McCaffrey, although he is injured a lot and he's older, on the older side. And you already have a pretty solid running back, I would say, or a running back room. Does he give you more pop? Maybe he doesn't. But I think they're trying to go all in, and they think offensively this trade could help them. And we'll see. We'll see if it pays off dividends early. So it's tough because he just got traded Thursday, and he's going to suit up today, from what I read. Today against Kansas City. So we'll have to see. I'm not going to bash the trade, because I think that both teams got what they needed, because they're in two different situations. Carolina is done. They're just trying to rebuild, right? The Niners are not quite rebuilding. They're trying to reload a little bit. They're still a formidable team. Okay, they could probably still end up winning this division, the NFC West, and making a playoffs. So, and making a run towards the Super Bowl. You just never know. We won't know until the end of December. End of December, mid-January, you're going to start seeing those teams who are starting to separate themselves. It always works out this way. So I'm not going to overreact. I'm not going to get on social media like some people do and just react to all these things. And I get it. That's how you get followers. That's how you get views. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm just going to keep it real, right? It's a wait-and-see game. So we'll see what happens with the Niners. All right, Baltimore Ravens at 9th. Listen, bad loss last week against the Ravens. I mean, you're up 10 literally in the fourth quarter. I think that's what the situation was, and you blow it. Again, that's like their third or fourth loss where they blew it. And that's going to be a problem. That's not just a one-off situation, right? To me, the Baltimore Ravens are a very front-running type of team. Everything's good. Lamar Jackson's the best when they're winning, right? I mean, but he's this greatest gift to quarterback play. He's a good player. And again, I'm on record saying it. He's a good player, but he's not this guy that everyone thinks he is, man. If you force him to sit in the pocket, like you force him, if he beats you, then you shake his hand at the 50-yard line and you call it a day. But more often than not, he's not going to do that. He's going to try to utilize his legs. And he's won 71% of his games. That's great. But what's he like in the playoffs? We've already seen regular season Lamar. I'm done with that. I'm ready to see something else. He's 1-4 in the playoffs, people. Wake up. He is what he is. When you play really good teams in the playoffs, they know how to play you. There's a reason why other teams are in the playoffs, because they're good, right? Now, he's going to get his money. Why? Because, the Ravens ain't got no choice. Who are they going to put back there? Tyler Huntley, who's a nice quarterback, but he's not a starting quarterback in the National Football League, right? Or maybe he is. I don't know. But they're going to pay the guy. They have to. But the Ravens, to me, they could easily be falling out. And I know that they just picked up Deshaun Jackson. I don't know what that's going to do for them, really. But honestly, you probably they need to go out and make a move for a younger receiver like Elijah Moore. Somebody. Chase Claypool. Well, they wouldn't trade within the division. But there's guys out there, right? So we'll have to wait and see. And Tampa Bay, I got them at 10th. Listen, they're sliding, though. They're sliding. I think there's some turmoil now with Tom Brady and his offensive linemen. They just don't seem like everything is clicking all day. I think there's too much going on personally for Tom Brady, and it's just not working out. And I think this definitely should probably be his last year in the National Football League for sure. Because he's still competing at a high level, but this team overall just doesn't have it right now. And maybe the year they won the Super Bowl, it was a little bit of turmoil, and they were able to right the ship. But I don't think this is the case this time around. I think there's just too much to overcome, and Tampa Bay is probably going to be falling out of the top 10 here shortly. We'll see next week what happens, but we'll have to wait. All right, honorable mention. I got the New York Jets. Listen, they're upcoming. Big. If they can go on a road today in Mile High City and beat the Broncos, even though they don't have Russell Wilson, that's still a formidable defense that they're playing. But the Jets have a superior defense as well themselves. And the reason I know this is because I listened to my boy Alfred Parsons Jr., who runs the Jet Fuel podcast on the Grid Network. So shout out to him. If you're a Jets fan, listen to that podcast. It's very informative. I think I know more about the Jets now than I ever have in my whole life. And I have a cousin that's a Jets fan, and I plugged him in on this podcast. It's very informative. So I like what the Jets are doing. They got a young nucleus. Their defense is tremendous with Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams. They're doing their thing. I forgot the name of the linebacker that they got. He used to play for Tampa Bay. But, the running back, Breece Hall, who I've seen play live last year when he was at Iowa State. Iowa State, they played UNLV here, just thrashed them. But I got to see the kid live, and I was like, wow, he's legit. And so they got a good thing going there. Zach Wilson, is a young quarterback. I'm not sure if he's going to be like this Patrick Mahomes kind of guy, but he's solid. So if they can get this win, I think I'll be willing to move them into the top 10. I just don't want to give it too early to them because the last time I kind of put my money on them, they screwed me when they lost to the Bengals after coming back from the Browns. So I just want to see if they can handle this winning ways because it's a culture. Some teams just don't know how to win, and they don't know how to handle themselves when they start winning. So we'll see. They're still young. I'm going to have the Chargers in there because they are on a 2-win winning streak. They're playing hard. They're winning these games, but their coach, I think, to me, he is the reason why they're going to be held back. I really believe that. So we'll have to wait and see if those two teams can crack the top 10 for next week for my power rankings. All right. Let's get to the predictions real quick. All right. First things first, we got the New York Giants taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road. Listen, this is an interesting game. I think that the Giants aren't this great team. And Jacksonville isn't that great either. Jacksonville, I thought I had better hopes for them. Now, they dropped some games where I thought, man, how'd you drop that one? Right? But this is a winnable game for them. I'm trying to get the spread on this game. I want to say it's pretty close if I'm not mistaken. -3, Jacksonville. -3. But Jacksonville has more offense, and I think their defense just might be good enough to take this win. I'm going to go with Jacksonville to win this game. All right. Just because they have a little bit more offense and they're at home. All right. Next game, I got Green Bay taking on the Carson Wentzless Commanders. Green Bay, you got to win this game. If Green Bay loses this game, that's it. I'm done. Green Bay, see you next year. Aaron Rodgers, you're done. Sorry. I thought you were good enough to carry this team, but you're not. I thought he was that dude. He apparently isn't. So therefore, I am done. If they lose this game, and they're favorite on the road, but if they somehow lose this game, because let's be real, they get after it out the gates early, but they don't finish well, and that's the big reason for some of their losses in the last couple of weeks is that they don't finish games. So where's the second half coaching? Other team make adjustments, they don't, so they lose. All right, Falcons taking on the Bengals. This game is at -6.5 for the Bengals. Falcons coming off a really big win at home against the Niners. The Falcons play hard, man. They play hard wherever. They play hard. The Bengals got to be careful. I think the Falcons may have figured out how to use Marcus Mariota, but I still think that the Bengals should win this game. I'm going to go with the Bengals at home. It's going to be closer than 6.5. I think this is going to be probably a field goal or less type of win for the Bengals, but this is going to be an exciting game to watch. So if you got NFL Sunday Pass, like me, go ahead and watch this game. I think it's going to be good, especially in the most of the Falcons games are really good at the end of the game. So early on, it's not that great, but towards the end, that's when you want to catch it. All right, Tampa Bay taking on the Fire Sale Panthers. Carolina Panthers, because they're giving up damn near everybody. Tampa Bay, you got to take care of this. This is almost a 2-touchdown game. They're -13. Now I don't think they'll cover. Listen, I've been watching football a lot, man. Especially in the NFL. Almost 2 touchdowns. That's hard, man, for an NFL team to beat another team by 2 touchdowns. And you're probably thinking, well, does it happen? Like, man, realistically, man, it doesn't happen that frequently. So when you see that line, I'm more inclined to take. And I know Carolina's starting PJ Walker at quarterback today, right? The guy that he's been around the league a while. He was a star in, what was it, the USFL or XF, whatever. I don't know what other league we had out there because we got so many of them. Right. But -13, I don't know, man. You gotta. There's a professionals on that other locker room. So if I was I am a betting man. I might be inclined to take the plus 13 because I think that the Panthers, they're gonna lose. Of course, I don't think there's no doubt about that. They're gonna lose, but I think they might cover though. So I might go look at that on my William Hill app, even though it's not a paid sponsorship, but I'm gonna look that up and see what the spread is on that here. So all right, but Tampa Bay should win this game, no doubt in my mind. All right, Jets and the Broncos. Now Russell Wilson is not playing. This is not a good week for Russell Wilson. He's not playing this week. Subway removes his Dangerwood sandwich, which I didn't get a chance to try, which I probably wasn't anyway because that commercial was hella creepy. And I did have Subway the other night, but anyway. Nonetheless, I think the Jets should win this game. Now, I believe I'm looking up the spread on this one. Where is it at? Where is it at? Where's the Jets at? I know I'm tripping. Oh, -2. I mean, it's going to be a close game, regardless of the quarterback play. They're playing in Denver. That's a very hostile, rough environment to play in. If you've never been there, I'm going in there in a couple weeks with my daughter. She has a soccer tournament out there, so we'll be out there. So I told her about it. I was like, listen, man, you got to get used to that high altitude. And she had no idea, but she's going to find out. And so a lot of Jets players, they're going to find that out. So they can't get too excited because they're not playing against Russell Wilson. But that altitude and the Denver Broncos defense is going to keep this game close. But I still like the Jets to win. I'm taking the Jets today to win this game over Denver. All right, I got Seattle and the LA Chargers. Seattle, I mean, their defense cannot stop anybody, but their offense can score. Geno Smith is looking pretty good, I would say. Maybe comeback player of the year, perhaps, maybe at least a honorable mention, I would say. Even though the Chargers continue to win, I think today is going to be a game where it's going to be close. I think the Seahawks are going to be able to put a little bit more pressure, even though their defense is not that great. They're going to figure that out, and I think I got the Seattle Seahawks winning this game on the road. Straight up money lines, just straight up winning this game against Chargers because I feel like it's going to come down every week. It's going to come down to a Brandon Staley decision, and he's going to make the wrong one every single time. And so therefore, I feel like the Seahawks in an upset. This is an upset. Should go and win this game today in LA at SoFi Stadium against the Chargers. All right, I got the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Tennessee Titans. The Titans have basically owned the Colts, and I don't think that'll change today. I think for the most part, both teams are pretty even. But Tennessee has a running game. Colts don't. So I'm going to go with the Titans to win and go 2-0 against the Colts and take sole possession of the AFC South. And that's how that's going to be. All right, we got the Dallas Cowboys at home taking on the Detroit Lions. Listen, the Cowboys coming off at least I know the defense is feeling pretty butthurt about what happened. They gave up, 27 points last week to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, thought they won the Super Bowl. Their coach is whatever. They feel some type of way about it. I think they're going to get right today against the Detroit Lions. They should be able to score on them because everyone and their mama has been able to score on Detroit Lions. So they should get this win. I got the Cowboys taking that one pretty easily, I would say. I got the Cleveland Browns on the road taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Listen, this is coming at -6.5. The Browns, they're 1 week away or 2 weeks away at least from Deshaun Watson taking over. This is not a good football team anymore. I feel really bad because they do got some talent on there, but it's just not working out. Baltimore coming off a bad loss last week should return home, and they should be able to run roughshod over the Cleveland Browns and get this win. All right, Houston Texans here in Las Vegas taking on the Raiders. This one, what's the line on this one? I think it was like a touchdown. Yeah, -7. Here's the thing with the Raiders. This could be a blowout for them, or it can go the other way. It can go the other way because their defense is so bad. You just don't know. I'm going to take the Raiders, although I would not be surprised, and I'm hedging a little bit. I would not be surprised if the Texans win this game, right? The Raiders got a tough stretch after this game. They go on the road for 2 weeks, back-to-back in New Orleans, right? Which, speaking of, they don't know what the quarterback situation is for them there. That's it's sad actually what's happened to them. Dennis Allen might be a coach. I should have probably added him on my hot seat, but we'll see. But they got New Orleans and then they got Jacksonville on the road, so they're going to stay out for 2 weeks. They're not coming back. This is a win they got to get. They got to go. They got to get on a roll. If they can win this game somehow, which they should, right? And you should go into New Orleans, and that's a team. But again, they can score a little bit, so you just never know. But should be a win for the Raiders today against the Texans. But I think this game is going to be closer than 7 points for sure. All right, then we got the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Chiefs. This game is -1, Kansas City. That tells you a lot, man. Like, the odds makers, they're not fools. The Niners do not suck. I know they're coming off a bad loss against Atlanta, but this is a good football team, a well-coached football team. They got some deficiencies, obviously, but they play defense well enough. They can keep in games. Jimmy Garoppolo he's not as dynamic as most people would want him to be, but he's solid. And we'll see what Christian McCaffrey will add to this offense today. But a lot of people are going to take the Niners because it's still close. I'm going to take the Chiefs only because they're at home. If the Chiefs were on the road in Levi Stadium, I would probably say, oh, no, they are. I take that back. I'm tripping. I flipped it. You know what? I'm going to switch it up. I will take the Niners today. I will take, because they are at home. Because they are at home, I'm going to take them as their home underdogs. So I'm going to place that bet today after this show's done. So, so I'm going to take the Niners to win this game. I had it flipped around. I did not realize that I made the graphic wrong and I incorrectly had them in a row, but really they're at home. So that crowd's going to be pumped up. They're going to be ready to go. They're going to introduce Christian McCaffrey, who's coming back home to the Bay Area. So a place where he played, it's a little homecoming. Maybe they can build off of that and get this win against the Kansas City Chiefs. All right. Sunday Night Football, Pittsburgh Steelers and Miami Dolphins. Can I be real? Like this matchup probably was exciting in the beginning of the year, but it's not so much exciting anymore. But I think Tua is getting the start, so I'm going to go with the Dolphins to win this game. I'm going to go with, if Tua comes back and is decent, I think they should win this game at home. Pittsburgh, although they had a really good win against Tampa Bay last week, they offensively they can't get it. They can't get it going. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with them. But I'm going to take the Dolphins to win at home for Sunday night. And Monday Night Football, a game in which only these two team fan bases are going to be watching. The Chicago Bears taking on New England Patriots in a snoozer. We all know what Bill Belichick does to young quarterbacks. And Justin Fields, for what it's worth, he's a weird situation because he's on a bad team, but he doesn't make really good decisions either. So, and that's a combination for Bill Belichick to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get after him. And I really feel like this game is probably gonna be a blowout, man. I ain't gonna lie. New England's -8 at home on Monday night, and Bailey Zappi is looking pretty solid. And I don't know if my boy Barry is still on the show watching the live, but listen, your boy Mac Jones is in trouble. Bailey Zappi is proving to probably be a better fit for this New England offense, at least for the rest of this year, than Mac Jones. Mac Jones could start contacting his realtor and selling whatever property he has in New England, because I think his time is coming to an end. And because I'm not saying Bailey Zappi is the future, but I think he gives you a little bit more from an athleticism standpoint than Mac Jones does. And we're going to see. But I got the New England Patriots winning that game on Monday Night Football tomorrow, which I might tune in a little bit just because, I really have nothing else other going on. But so we'll see. I have to wait and see. All right. Clutch picks of the week. Last week I went 1-3. The week before I went 1-3. Now I'm total 11-11. I'm 500, man. Like, I'm trying to battle. I'm fighting. So I'm going out on a limb today. I got Seattle. For my boy John Rivera from the Fan Podcast, I'm taking his Jets, Jets, Jets. Shout out to my cousin who also is Jets fans as well. And I got the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm taking my Dallas Cowboys to win outright today. So I'm looking to go 4-0, man. If I can go 4-0, give me a nice little buffer again. I can start feeling good about myself a little bit. Start bouncing around, feeling good, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. So those are my clutch picks of the week. Check it out on social media. I posted it on there if you forget. But I'll keep it real, man. Like, listen, it's hard, man. You think you know everything and all, but some of these games that I've lost, it's been like last second. I was looking good at one point, and sometimes this is how it goes. That's just betting, right? It is what it is. So, but I still feel confident in my decisions, even though those weeks I did go 1-3. I could easily went 3-1, but that's just not how it goes sometimes. So we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, that's all the time I got, man. Almost an hour, man. That's pretty good stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure you guys come back tonight and watch the NFL After Dark. We're going to recap all of the day's events, go over the games and whatever storylines that may occur throughout the day. So you want to watch that show later on tonight after Sunday Night Football. I know you East Coast people, you're probably going to be snoozing, but trust me, you don't want to miss out. It's a good show. So make sure you tune in to that. So yeah. That's all I got. So hey, we're an hour away from kickoff. I gotta get changed. I gotta put my Cowboys gear on. You know, I want to represent for the grid today, so I'm doing that eloquently. I would think. But other than that, man, hey, enjoy your Sunday morning and afternoon. I will see you guys tonight, immediately after Sunday Night Football for my NFL After Dark. But yeah, it's gonna be a good one. So hey, until next time, man. Hey, this is Clutch Sports Talk NFL Sunday Morning with me, Ryan Flowers. Like I always say, never settle till the work is done. Let's go.